The main reason that Trump did this was to impress the communist Chinese dictator that he made wait an hour while this was starting. And he did this because the world's in so much danger with China flexing its muscles and literally already stealing 90% of the South China Sea.
We're live on the Alex Jones Show, and on the line we have Bill Mitchell of YourVoiceRadio.com, and he's also filming the show for his podcast. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
Good. Now, the Trump base is split. I think we can at least agree on that to some extent. You have a Drudge Report poll which shows, I think it was about 65% in support of these airstrikes. I've done polls which show, 10% more oppose it. This has completely split the base. We've got very prominent people coming out opposing this airstrike, talking about the likes of Ann Coulter, Michael Savage, Stefan Molyneux, Marine Le Pen, Nigel Farage, Rand Paul, Laura Ingraham. They all oppose this airstrike. You've supported it on Twitter. I've been rinsed for criticizing it. I'm sure you've been rinsed for supporting it. There are no real winners here. But the question is this, okay? I'm going to read you two Trump tweets, which he tweeted during the campaign. This is from Trump. Don't attack Syria, an attack that will bring nothing but trouble for the US. Focus on making our country strong and great again. He also tweeted, crooked Hillary Clinton foreign interventions unleashed ISIS in Syria, Iraq, and Libya. She is reckless and dangerous. Why is Trump now following the exact policy he swore to avoid?
Yeah, I think a real danger that we get into when we judge someone's current actions by their former tweets is that they have new information that they've attained on their current actions that they didn't have when they made that tweet. And this is one of the things I like about Donald Trump. He's not a classic conservative ideologue. He's a resultist. He's a CEO type mentality. And you don't want a CEO that goes in making decisions based on pure ideology. You want a CEO that goes in and makes decisions on the latest, most up-to-date, best information. And my feeling is that once he got together with his top advisors, with Mattis and all the rest of his Security Council, and he looked at what was going on here, he decided, you know what, we need to act here. And to me, the upside and the benefits of this are so tremendous that it outweighs by far any downside risks.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the lead up to this. Of course, we had the chemical weapons attack. The central question is this. Why would Assad launch a chemical weapons attack 1 week after Tillerson said regime change was off the menu? We had ISIS on the run. We had Assad moving closer to victory. What possible benefit could it have been to him to launch this chemical weapons attack, especially given in the past, back in 2013, severe questions over that? Many learned, scholarly people, Seymour Hersh included, said the rebels were likely behind that attack. There's been no investigation. How do we know Assad was behind the attack in the first place, given that it makes absolutely no sense in terms of motive?
Yeah, well, I mean, how do I test the motives of a madman? And the guy clearly has been beating the hell out of his people and out of his country for a long time now. And I believe that he has used chemical weapons in the past, hasn't he? Doesn't he have a history of that?
Well, so does ISIS and the rebels. So how do we know without having a proper investigation? I mean, even Trudeau called for an investigation into it. So they might have intelligence that we don't, but I think we should be sure about who's behind an atrocity before launching 59 cruise missiles into a country.
I can pretty much guarantee you they've got better intelligence than we do. Pretty much guarantee you. I'm sure they had assets on the ground. They were able to evaluate this. And regardless, here's what's happened. Donald Trump did this. Prior to this, world leaders were very sketchy about Donald Trump. There was a big question, would he lead? This was a businessman with no government experience, no military experience. When push came to shove, would he take bold leadership? He tossed a good game, would he follow through? And in this case, he did. He mentioned that he might do this during the day. He did it that night. When Chinese President Xi was actually sitting there with him, this all went on, okay? This was a very bold step. When Donald Trump did this, he once again became the leader of the free world. Donald Trump said, I will make America great again. Part of that is America becoming the leader of the free world again, and that's what happened last night. And all you have to do is look at the reaction of the other leaders of the free world. Without question, praise, laudatory praise of what Donald Trump did, about the decisiveness, about the effectiveness, about the limitation of what this was. I mean, you have the Prime Minister of Britain, you have the UK Defense Secretary, you have the German Minister, you have Italy's Prime Minister, you have Japan, you have Israel. I mean, all these countries have come out in praise of what Donald Trump did. In addition,
I see that point, but the problem is the UK government was behind the destabilization of Syria in the first place. It's the same government that supported the jihadist rebels that led to the problem in the first place. I mean, why should we be pandering for the support of Angela Merkel? I mean, why is that suddenly important, given that Trump refused to even shake her hand like 3 weeks ago? Here's my question, though, Bill. And I mean, this is an open dialogue, right? I mean, we've both been rinsed for having opinions on this. We still have an open dialogue. We're not going to jump down each other's throats. But here's my concern. That airbase that got bombed was defending a town full of Christians an hour away that is under constant daily bombardment, artillery strikes from ISIS, from jihadists, from Syrian rebels. Those people have now been left completely exposed because most of the defense has been removed. Those aircraft were defending that town, beautiful ancient town full of Orthodox Roman churches, again, Christian population. Now they've been left completely defenseless because this protection has been removed. So do you understand the concerns of those who include many, active duty military veterans who were concerned about it back in 2013, that we're now acting in support of jihadists and ISIS, given that they're now celebrating this?
Yeah, well, I can understand their concerns. I disagree with their concerns. Here's the problem. Okay, Donald Trump came in, and when these gas attacks were reported, and apparently our intelligence supported that this happened, okay? When these gas attacks happened and Assad was responsible, according to our intelligence, Donald Trump could either respond or not respond. If he didn't respond at all, that would be unacceptable as president of the United States. So if he responded and condemned them, then he had to act. If he did not act, then he became Obama 2.0, okay? So he had to act in a surgical, limited way. And they followed the intelligence, and they did it. They acted. The upside of this is tremendous. Here's the thing. The entire Russiagate thing just died. It's over. It's over. Because what person in the world would say that Donald Trump is acting as the puppet of Putin now that Donald Trump has basically stuck his finger in Putin's eye in Syria? That's over. That's over with.
I know, but Bill, why should we need to pander to those people? They're not satisfied. They're still out saying, why did Trump give Putin an hour's advance warning? That must mean he's still in bed with Putin. I don't think those people are going to be satisfied by anything. Do you think this is going to completely deflate the Russia investigation and that's now going to slowly dissipate?
It was deflating anyway. But yeah, it's going to deflate. And I'm telling you what, based upon what I'm seeing on Twitter, you said that we're split on this. I disagree with that statement. I think this is maybe 20% against, 80% for. Okay, I see very positive support for Trump on this. I see the people that were initially very against this saying, I'm going to abandon Trump on this. I'm off the Trump train on this. I see that fading away. Here's the thing people got to understand. The Trump train has got many cars on it. If you don't like the drapes on one car, move to another car, okay? Because if you say that you're going to abandon Trump on this, then what are you going to do for the next 4 years? I mean, what about tax reform? What about healthcare reform? What about the wall? What about immigration reform? What about jobs? These are other cars. If you believe in those, but stay on the Trump train. Don't abandon Trump. There's nothing wrong with disagreeing with Trump on this. He likes that feedback. That's important to him. That's part of his strategy. But in my case, I think this is a great move. I think history will look back at this as a turning point in the Middle East and a brilliant move. We can micromanage it if you want. I disagree with that statement. I think on the broad picture, this was a fantastic move for Donald Trump, and history will prove that out.
There was a big emotional reaction last night when it happened, and there was some flouncing. I agree. It did get quite emotional at points. But the fact is that many prominent people have come out and criticized this. As I said, Rand Paul, Nigel Farage, Marine Le Pen. If you look at the people who support this, I don't think it's really good company to have. Hillary Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, Nancy Pelosi, Angela Merkel, Brian Williams, the mainstream media, neocons, never Trumpers. They all endorse and support this. Do you feel comfortable being in the same camp as them now?
Well, let me turn the question around. You know who came out against this? Russia and Iran. Do you feel comfortable being in their camp? They're against it. That's your company. Russia and Iran, they're against this attack. I mean, we can turn that both ways. But here's the thing: Donald Trump created bridges with this. Okay, he took a leadership role in the world. At no point will our enemies say this guy is not a guy who acts. And this was a strong message with the president of China sitting there with him at dinner. This was a strong message to North Korea that I am serious. I mean it. If you guys don't cut it out, I will come after you. Because here's the thing: if we let Assad and Syria get away with this, okay, and then what happens next? Okay, and then we let North Korea get away with something, and then what happens next? And then what happens next? And people say, oh, Donald Trump promised that he wouldn't get involved in wars. Okay, Donald Trump was preventing war by doing this. And people say, well, Syria is not our concern. Syria is a long way away. This is the United States of America. Donald Trump promised to protect the United States of America. But here's the problem. With the refugee crisis and with ISIS telling us that they're going to be using that refugee crisis to infiltrate the world with ISIS terrorists, this has become a worldwide problem. This has become our problem. I tell you what, a big freckle on your face.
Bill, I mean, ISIS is celebrating this, and now they're going to destroy a Christian town because of it. We're helping ISIS.
I think you're looking too small picture on that. I think you're looking too small picture on that. You're not looking at the big perspective on this. Here's the thing. If you have a big freckle on your face, that's a cosmetic problem. But if that freckle becomes a melanoma, then that threatens your whole body. And right now, Syria has become a melanoma on the world. Because of the refugee crisis, they are infecting the entire world. This has got to be dealt with, and it's got to be dealt with strongly. I have a feeling this Christian town is going to be just fine. It's going to be taken care of by Donald Trump. I'm not worried about that. One other thing I wanted to say, this entire thing to me is a precursor to the idea of safe zones. Imagine this scenario. Donald Trump has said another campaign promise Trump made was safe zones in Syria. Okay, let's say that Donald Trump ignores this attack, goes in and creates safe zones in Syria, puts American forces on the ground, and then Assad attacks those with chemical weapons, and then he gets crucified because it's like, wait a minute, you knew he had chemical weapons. You did nothing. You created safe zones. You put everybody in the same group. You put American forces on the ground, and they're all dead now. Donald Trump would be dead as a president. It would be over for him as a president. He took preemptive action before that happens. I guarantee you this is a lead up to creating safe zones that is going to save millions and millions of lives and stop the refugee crisis. That's what he wants to do. I don't think he wants to.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Bill. The other thing that I'd say is, you know, a lot of people think this is a limited strike. This is a one-off deal. This is the end of it. Nikki Haley is already in front of the UN saying this is just the start. Rex Tillerson, after a week ago saying that Assad was part of Syria's future, is now saying that it's about regime change. He thinks that Assad is going to step down and just vacate his position, having been in an intense civil war and under intense international pressure for 6 years. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The only way they're going to get Assad to step down is by obliterating the hell out of Damascus. So how can people keep saying this is just a limited strike when Rex Tillerson, the U.S. Secretary of State, has said on multiple occasions that they want regime change, which is exactly what Hillary wanted?
Yeah, well, we'll have to see how that turns out. If I had the ability to read the future at that level, I'd just go out and buy a lottery ticket and retire. So I don't know what's going to happen on that. But I think that what Donald Trump did now in the here and now was a great strategic move. We'll have to see what happens going forward. As far as regime change, I don't know. We had a bad experience with that in Iraq. I don't know if this will be different. I know that the world governments are much more behind us right now than they were ever behind Bush on Iraq. I mean, Iraq had to go with secondary powers in quite often cases to go after Iraq. I mean, we have the major powers of the world. And people say, oh, well, we've got Britain behind us and we've got France and we've got all these countries behind us. I mean, isn't that kind of like NATO? Okay, NATO is on our side on this. These are the other major powers in the world. I don't have a big problem with that. And the fact
I mean, Bill, everyone was behind the attack on Libya and the regime change in Libya, and that's what started the migrant crisis and led to the rise of ISIS. So why should we be encouraging more regime change when it's proven to be a disaster over and over again?
What's the alternative? What should Trump have done?
Well,
nothing?
You could still have the safe zones in Syria, and you could still have a secular government that doesn't leave a vacuum to be overrun by ISIS and jihadists, which is what happened in Libya. It's what happened in Iraq. I mean, that's what always happened. Surely we'd learn that by now.
If he created safe zones in Syria, and then once they were there, Assad attacked with chemical weapons, then where does that leave Trump?
Well,
you mean you created safe zones?
Why would it be in his interest to do that if we were helping Assad fight ISIS, which is what, we were doing to a certain extent, Russia to a greater extent. But I mean, how would it be in Assad's benefit to attack safe zones? I mean, that would automatically lead to a global movement behind his regime change. Whereas now people don't support that. 60%, I did a poll, 60% don't support regime change, even amongst many Trump supporters who did support this airstrike. So, if Trump came out and said, right, we're going to do regime change, I think he would lose more than 50% of his base.
Yeah, I don't think so. Here's the thing. You're polling. I can do a poll right now on, do you support the strike that Trump did? And I could probably get about 90% support because, I'm preaching to my own choir. Okay. And if you do a poll, you're going to, unless it was some sort of scientific poll that you did, you're going to get a bunch of people that tend to agree with you. That's just the way this. That's why I don't do a lot of Twitter polls. I do Twitter polls to make a point, not to actually get any analysis out of it. So, and also one of the things that you can tell from these Drudge polls, the Drudge poll came out and it says 60% people supported. Drudge polls and online polls like that, they measure enthusiasm more than they measure actual numbers. So there seems to be more enthusiasm behind Trump doing this. And they like the idea. A lot of people like the idea. This was such a not Obama thing to do. Obama drew lines in the sand. Donald Trump said, I'm all out of chalk. I don't have time for that. I'm going. Boom. That's it. So we'll see how this turns out. I support it. You're against it.
Obama did it in Libya, though, and didn't turn out so great. That's what started the whole crisis in the first place.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is I'm behind this. I think it was a good move. I see a lot of upside. I know Scott Adams wrote an article, and he listed 7 different reasons why this is a fantastic move by Trump. I don't want to go through all those because I know that we got a relatively short show here. But but here's the thing, is that, Paul, you and I are on the same team. We've got the same long-term goal. We want all the same things, but we disagree on some of the details. This is normal. People are like, oh, are you and Paul Joseph going to fight? No, not at all. Because, like I said, we want the same thing. We just disagree on this particular detail.
Exactly. The point I made, Bill, was we're not like Obama cult members who have to blindly follow and support his every single policy. There's still room for dialogue and disagreement, or you would hope there would be.
Yeah, I just see the thing is, I'm looking, you're looking at more of the individual details, the town, this sort of thing. I'm looking at the broad strategic benefit of it to the world as a whole. And I think this was a great move. I think it was a strong move. I think it needed to be done. I think it established Donald Trump as the leader of the free world. This is very parallel to what we saw during the primary season. During the primary season, we had all these debates. During the debates, what was every debate about? Donald Trump said this. What do you think about that? Donald Trump said that. What do you think about this? Okay. All that, all the time. It was never Ted Cruz said this. What do you think? Or Jeb Bush said this. What do you think? Donald Trump led with boldness on every issue. Every debate was about Donald Trump. And what Donald Trump did with this move was he made world peace about Donald Trump, about Donald Trump's leadership. And if there's going to be something else even bigger that comes up in the future, when the other world leaders have to decide, do we need to get behind this guy? Do we need to do a coalition with this guy? They can say to themselves, you know what? He said he'd do something and he did it. We know that he's a guy who follows through. And
I said before, Bill, we got Alex Jones on the line. We've skipped the break. We're going to get Alex's take. Alex, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm crazy. It's just wild. I'm here listening to you guys, and I really agree with Bill, but also agree with you, and that's why I called in. And then right as I was sitting there on hold, I heard Bill making the point, hey, we're all on the same team here. This isn't some liberal conservative debate. This is just Americana patriots and British patriots and patriots all over the world who just want a prosperous, good free market system. And yes, you can see him going back on some promises here, but the world has changed. And the larger issue is, Bill's right, but Paul, you're right as well. The main reason that Trump did this was to impress the communist Chinese dictator that he made wait an hour while this was starting. And he did this because the world's in so much danger with China flexing its muscles and literally already stealing 90% of the South China Sea, when historically they've had about 20%. And North Korea threatening and being belligerent, they're letting them know, listen, this is serious. Also, Trump knows they were hitting him hard with this fake Russian narrative. It was just starting to deflate, but they didn't care. They were moving forward as a distraction. Him doing this absolutely sends that message that, no, I'm not a Russian puppet. Plus, let's go back. Paul, you're making great points. When you sit there and say, well, listen, they're now saying Assad stepped down when 8 days ago they were saying maybe he could stay. Well, here's the deal. The agreement was made with the military, the U.S. military, the Russians, and Assad 4 years ago that they'd block Obama and the globalist move with Saudi Arabia to overthrow that country and basically merge it with Europe and then flood Turkey with the globalist Muslim colonization plan of the globalist. And so Trump basically absolutely had to do this, or they were going to start sabotaging him, make him look weak. And I came out last night and basically laid all this out. Sorry, somebody's calling me on call waiting over and over again. But you know what this comes down to is the world's waking up, and as long as Trump continues to kick Al Qaeda and ISIS out of there, and as long as they drive them out and destroy them, and then end this Muslim civil war between Shiites and Sunnis, it'll be a good thing. Then they can hold elections there in Syria. If, though, they kick ISIS and Al Qaeda / Al Nusra, all the same group, out, and then go in there and basically create some new globalist state or put some other Islamic group in, I'm going to have a very, very serious big problem with it. But he inherited Obama's war. He inherited Obama's crisis. And then now this crisis was going to spin out of control. It already has. Now that Turkey has said they're going to flood Europe more, and Erdogan's basically merging with the caliphate and all the rest of it, we basically strategically for Europe and the United States have to cut off Syria and try to stabilize it, even if that means breaking it into three pieces. And I get it. I don't want nation building. I don't want America to be an empire. If Trump wasn't getting $3 trillion in the stock market, $300 billion in new jobs, and building a wall, and getting out of the TPP, and cutting half the UN's funding, I'd say he's a damn globalist. But no, he's actually stabilizing America, stabilizing the world, because America was in the imperial role, and then trying to basically form alliances that aren't forced, and then has us basically beginning to pull back as we rebuild our infrastructure. But if we go to war in North Korea or with China because they don't respect us, that's going to sabotage that whole thing. I'm going to get off because my phone's breaking up, gentlemen, but it's a great job. Both of you are making absolutely salient points, and as you said, time will tell. But the globalists want to sabotage Trump. They're signaling he's done a good job now because he's only acting like he's agreeing with their overall larger scale program. But that analogy about the train and different boxcars and different cabooses and different things is absolutely right. You want your taxes cut. You want your guns left alone. You want Christians not being harassed by the IRS. All of that, if he gets his agenda through, he's proving he'll do. Great job, guys, and I want everybody to have a great weekend. Thank you, Paul, for hosting.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, thanks, Alex. Yeah, there's a lot of hysteria in the media right now, Bill, about, oh, you've turned on Trump because you disagree with this. Well, no, as we've said, there's room to criticize Trump on certain agenda issues within the whole panoply of, his policy agenda. That doesn't mean we're stabbing him in the back. I mean, that tells you more about the media and the left, doesn't it? That they think that if you disagree with the president on one thing, that must mean you're abandoning him entirely. Again, because we're not a sheep-like cult that just follows everything Trump does. We challenge him. We have dialogue, right?
Right, exactly. This whole thing reminds me of when he brought in Romney to interview for Secretary of State. We had actually a lot of the same people that were in major meltdown mode, major freakout mode, that, if Trump does this, then he's abandoned us all. He's gone back on every campaign promise. And I was basically saying, no, don't worry about it. It's going to all work out. Romney doesn't meet the mold of what Trump is going to go. So he's just exposing Romney to some voter opinion to weaken him and to marginalize him. Just as I thought that Trump let Ryan run with Ryan Care to marginalize him, but that's another topic altogether.
Well, I mean, it's true that, Ann Coulter completely freaked out about the Romney thing. There was a lot of flouncing. There was a lot of flouncing last night, and passions were running high. And that's okay. We can disagree with each other and still support the wider agenda.
It all works out. Things are said in the heat of the moment that sometimes we change our mind on. And here's the thing. And this is what I've always said. I was in executive recruiting for 30 years and sales for 30 years. And I said, there's only two reasons why somebody says no. Either they really don't want it or they just don't have enough information to say yes. And I think a lot of people that were saying no completely to Trump last night were mainly because they just didn't have enough information yet to say yes. And it was just an initial reaction. And that's okay. We are a vibrant, dynamic, energetic, emotional group. But you know what? At the end of the day, we come together and we get the job done. And that's my message to everybody today is, give this some time. Let the strategy work itself out. In my mind, this was not an end game for Trump. This was a leverage move for Trump. They've asked Trump before, what's your position on this? And he said, I don't know. I don't have any leverage on that. I don't have a position. Donald Trump is always looking to build leverage. And I tell you, let me throw one more thing out there. One of the things you can tell by Donald Trump is he never makes a dramatic move until he has a great day. When he has a great day, when he has some big news day, then he makes a dramatic move. What happened yesterday? He got Gorsuch approved, right? That said he could go ahead with this move. The reason being is if he had done this right after Ryan Care failed, the entire media, everybody would say he's trying to cover and distract for Ryan Care. But now that he did it on the day that he had a big victory, nobody's saying he's trying to distract. So,
all right, we're going to have to leave it there, Bill. We got about 20 seconds left. YourVoiceRadio.com. The debate will continue. As you said, Bill, we will have to wait and see with developments. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Oh, okay, man.
Thank you. There goes Bill Mitchell, YourVoiceRadio.com. Again, my concerns remain on the record. This has always proven to be a disaster in the past, but we shall see. Thanks for joining us. Infowars.com.
Let's go to Devin in Florida. Devin in Florida, you're on the air.
Great. Hey, thank you so much. Listen, I have bought your product, and I gotta say they're amazing.
Thank
Anyone
you.
who's on the fence, buy it, because I've got Caveman, Superman Vitality, Secret 12, Vitamin Mineral Fusion. I've got the body armor.
Wow, thank you.
Wow.
You're the type of listener that makes it all possible. Which nutraceutical does you like best?
I really like the Vitamin Mineral Fusion, to be honest. That's
It's amazing.
really incredible. I drank it in the morning, and I swear to you, I felt incredible. Like I haven't felt in weeks. My morning was fantastic, and I love you guys. I love the InfoWars crew, and I just want to, I want to take this opportunity to tell anybody out there who's on the fence. Just buy it. You will love it. I'm telling you, I've never bought a bad product.
What you find in our news is the same thing you find in our products at InfoWarsLife.com. It's a win-win. InfoWarsLife.com.